Welcome to episode 174 of the Whatnauts Review Show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie, TV series, anime, comic book, audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, and then we come back here and we discuss it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined on this trip to the stars by my co-captain, Kyle Springer.
Hello, how is everyone doing out there? Melissa, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm full of burrito energy.
Ooh, good. Good stuff. Are you sure it wasn't like an egg of some kind? Because that could be like, there could be something wrapped up in there. You don't know.
Well, I looked inside. It was mostly rice. I don't think Qdoba stocks alien eggs. I think you got to go to Chipotle for that.
True. Chipotle is good, though. Maybe that's why. Who knows?
Full of alien eggs.
You never know. I don't know. We're talking nonsense here. I just stuffed my face with a big salad. My roommate made chili for this evening, so I'm looking forward to that. It's a good day. I'm feeling good.
Chili Sundays are good days.
They are, yeah.
Number one day of the week to eat chili.
Absolutely. Melissa, what are we talking about this week?
This week, we are kicking off Shametember. It's not our first episode of September, but it is our first episode of our two-parter. We started doing this last year, where Kyle and I take turns pitching each other movies that we have not seen that we should have seen by now, by this point in our lives. And these can be general pop culture touchstones or like really specific things to us. Like, I love the Daniel Craig Bond movies. And last year for my Shametember, I watched Dr. No, the very first James Bond movie for the first time. So this week, it's my Shametember again. And I pitched you 3 famous sequels where I'd seen the first movie in that franchise, but had never gotten around to the later movie that was as well regarded or better. And you picked Aliens, the sequel to Alien. Imagine that. The 1986 film by director James Cameron.
There you go. Yeah. So welcome to Shametember. I'm super excited about this one. Now, we don't typically do like sequels on here unless we do them at like here's the trilogy. Yeah. That's what we're watching this week. So this was an interesting one. I think this was a good opportunity for us to do that. It was a perfect time to be like, let's watch Aliens, because I've seen the first one. I thought I had seen the second one. Apparently, I haven't, because I didn't remember any of that. But yeah, that's the whole thing that you also had not seen.
Yeah,
only
so Alien the first.
Yeah. Melissa, what did you heard? What have you heard about this movie?
I knew it was super well regarded, like I said, about as well as Alien or better, and that Alien is a horror movie, sci-fi horror movie, and this is a lot more of an action movie as opposed to a horror movie, so I think that helped the two stand on equal footing with each other. They're on the same pedestal, they're both gold medals in 2 different Olympic sports, pretty much, from the same country, and that country is Alien. I knew we had like a big crew of these colonial space marines who would eventually all get picked off. I knew Ripley cared for a little girl, who had been orphaned in an alien attack. And I knew that she was in one of those big mech suits.
Okay, yeah. There you go.
And the movie has all of those. I was correct on all counts.
I mean, to be honest, that's kind of the movie. Like that is the entirety of the movie.
Yeah. Plus like a robot and Paul Reiser in a puffy vest.
Yeah. So I actually made the decision when you were like, hey, let's watch this. I was like, well, I'm going to go watch the first one first, so that I have a little bit more of some context, since it's been years since I've seen the first one. which I was too young to go see in theaters, but I remember watching it on TV, like in parts.
Because it came out in 1979, Kyle.
Well, obvious, yeah. I was too young. I wasn't even born yet. By like,
you're right. You're not
years.
lying. I have nothing to call you out on.
I'm correct in saying this. Too young, but yeah, like I remember it being on TV, and that's how I watched it. Right, and I never watched it like all in one sitting. It was like bits and pieces, but I had seen it like 2 or 3 times to be like, oh, okay, now I have it all, and it's it's right there. But I thought I had seen the second one, but I guess that's not the case, because I was like, I don't remember any of this stuff. But yeah, I think kind of similarly to you, I knew that this one was also very well regarded, but also like held this interesting space where it's like, it's not the sequel that people necessarily wanted, right? Like they wanted more of a horror thing that fit more with the first one, but what they got was actually also really good. So it was just like, well, we can't really complain, but we kind of can, but also not. So
I've heard this story from the Blank Check Movie podcast hosted by Griffin Newman and David Sims. One of my favorites. I mention it a lot. And they cover the director's filmographies. And they did a series on James Cameron. And so they talked about this movie. And they tell the story that they're like, this may be apocryphal. We don't really have a source that confirms this, but we've often heard that in the pitch meeting for this movie, James Cameron comes into this room full of executives and he's got a chalkboard or whatever, maybe a whiteboard. I don't know when whiteboards, were popularized, but he goes up to a board and he writes alien on it. And then he writes the S at the end. And then he draws two lines through the S to make a dollar sign. He's like, more aliens, more big bucks.
Right, exactly, which I feel like is exactly what James Cameron would do, of just like, let's take this thing that everyone loved but make it bigger. What if more?
What if 5 more Avatar sequels that I'm eventually going to make?
Yeah. Which, like, it makes sense that he would also take this in more of an action realm, and I can see, like, it's one of those things that I can see how this is sort of a natural progression of that series. But yeah, I can also understand why people were just like, we kind of just wanted something smaller, like more scary than what we got here. So
another one of the movies I pitched to you was Terminator 2 Judgment Day, another James Cameron, which I think is similar, like bigger, more action.
Yeah.
What if you had a metallic Robert Patrick?
Indeed. So Melissa, now that you have seen this film, what did you think?
I liked it. I think it's a very solid action movie. Fun sci-fi concepts in there. Tons of characters in it. Like, you're going to find somebody to be interested in every scene, somebody to follow. Like I said, a lot of these soldiers get picked off, but I think you're aware it's a Suicide Squad scenario. Like, you're aware going in that they exist to die. So there's not that much of an emotional impact of it, but that's okay. That's the deal the movie has made with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I enjoyed this a lot too. I am not a big fan of scary movies and stuff like that, but I know I had seen all of these before, so I was like, all right, yeah, I'm fine watching these. Well, I guess I shouldn't say I've seen all of these, because these are the only ones that I know I have seen, and then I've seen AVP, and then I think the sequel to that one, whatever that one was named, but I've not seen like Prometheus or Alien Covenant or all of that stuff. I haven't seen the the newer stuff here, and then of course I've seen Space Balls, which has the Xenomorph like popping out of the chest and then being like, "Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtime gal."
What if you visited a planet of Michigan J frogs? I was also most familiar with the Alien concept from Spaceballs before I actually saw Alien, which was only like 2 years ago. And that's like one of the final bits in that movie in Spaceballs that happens like 10 minutes from the end. Yeah. And like in my head, I thought it would be the climax of Alien also. No, that's like the first bit. Like it's a long, slow burn of a movie. Like there's a lot of time spent with this crew and like walking around the ship before you actually get to anything alien-y. So it's still an hour into the movie. But nah, that's how it kicks off. That's how Alien action begins.
Absolutely, yeah. I had a blast watching this, and I think I am going to try. We'll see how far I get to continue watching this series, just because this is one that, and like in the back of my mind, I've been like, I should probably know a little bit more about this series and stuff like that. So maybe down the road, you might hear me talk about it on the Captain's Log. Be like, I watched more Alien movies.
You're already like a third of the way done. There is a YouTube channel called Dead Meat that does kill counts for horror movies. And I saw these videos around my YouTube suggestions for ages. I never clicked on them because I thought the idea of just a kill count seemed a little garish. But I tried one once, and they're actually like really great recaps of the movies. And the kill count is just like the structure around which it recaps it. Right. And it's like an interesting look at the sort of statistics of horror movies. Like, oh, did you know Child's Play actually has very few kills in it? This is the amount of kills on average. This is like the coolest looking one. This is the gender ratio, etc. You know, it's not as tacky as I thought it would. I turn to that channel a lot when I want to learn more about a movie without necessarily watching the whole thing. And like last night, to recap, I watched the Dead Meat videos on Alien to refresh my memory, and then on Aliens again, just in case I missed anything. And they did the whole rest of the franchise, so yeah, you can just watch Dead Meat, and they'll also describe it to you.
There you go. Interesting. Good stuff. Well, do you want to do a quick synopsis to catch people up if they have not seen this one yet?
Yeah. So after the events of the first Alien, where a woman named Ellen Ripley goes into space on just like a cargo mission, and her ship encounters the titular alien, the Xenomorph. It destroys, it kills everybody in her crew. She has to like blow up the ship and like fly away in an escape pod. That's how the movie ends, with her like in her cryo sleep in the escape pod. She's so far out from Earth, like everybody has to cryo sleep. And this movie opens with her little pod being found. She wakes up in a hospital and they tell her she's been out for 57 years.
Yikes. Yeah.
So now like everybody she's known is dead, and she was trying to get out there to like tell people there's an alien threat. And in the meantime, she wakes up and the company she works for is like, why'd you blow up that whole spaceship? Like, what's with a lot of money on that?
So what happened like, all that time ago, right? That was weird, huh?
Right. And she finds out that the planet that they had visited that had the aliens on it has since been terraformed. People live there. And she's like, oh no, there aren't supposed to be people there. Like, they're all going to die. And they're like, no, it's fine. And then like a week or two later, they're like, we got a distress call from that planet. We're going to send in a bunch of these space marines to go take care of it. And being the one person who's ever dealt with this before, we're going to send you along to advise. And it's just about these people landing on this planet. They find one little girl. Her name's Newt. And she's like the one survivor of this colony. Everybody else has been killed off. By the time they're able to reach that planet, because, space big. It takes a long time for anybody to get anywhere. It's like, all the rest of the citizens are dead by the time they get to the planet. Yeah. So Ripley just sort of adopts this little girl, tries to care for her, tries to convince everybody like what a real serious threat all of these aliens are. And then it happens again. The aliens just kill everybody again.
Yep. Now there's more than one.
Yeah. Plural. Aliens with a dollar sign.
Exactly. Yeah. So that is kind of about it. It's a pretty straightforward movie. It's not real complicated. It's a good action film. It's still fairly scary. Yeah. There's some horrific stuff that happens in there. But definitely more of an action film for sure in this one.
And I want to say there's apparently a director's cut out there that has like more backstory on like people Ripley has lost since she's been asleep for 57 years. You spend more time with those colonists before, all the aliens get to them. I just watched the regular cut. I watched it on Pluto TV. Pluto or no, it was AMC. I watched it on the AMC app, but it operates like Pluto TV where there's a lot of commercial breaks in between, which I don't know if that was the best way to watch the movie.
Gotcha.
I also want to say in like the third act giant battle against the aliens, they're using all these space guns and it's so many flashing lights. It was difficult to watch. I had to turn away frequently. It's a stressful time for your eyes.
Absolutely.
So if you're a photosensitive viewer, maybe leave the room and have a friend describe that part to you.
Indeed. Yeah, that's what I was about to ask you next is what version did you watch? Because I watched the director's cut, the like, big one there. So
where'd you find that?
That was on Prime. Well, it was not included, but I rented it. So
I wanted to watch it for free.
Yeah. Free is always good. So there you go. But with that, we will take a quick break for housekeeping, and we will be right back. We put a lot of hard work into the shows that we make, and yes, we make multiple different shows here at the Whatnauts, and we'd love it if you would check them all out. You can find out more information on our website at thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in the Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. If you want to support what we do here at The Whatnauts, patreon.com/The Whatnauts is the best place to do that. You can support us for as little as $1 a month. You can get all kinds of exclusive content at the $3 tier. You can also get a shout out and thank you on all of our shows at the $5 tier. You can support us on Twitch by subscribing to our channel at twitch.tv/The Whatnauts, and we would love to have you all join us for our live streams and talk with us in the chat. And lastly, we have merch. If you want to grab yourself a shirt or a sweatshirt or a mug or something else, go to thewhatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. And we are back. Big shout out to our Patreon supporters at the $5 tier and above. So thank you, Sam. I almost blanked out and was like, what do I do next? Thank you, Sam, for supporting us for so long. We love you a lot.
Thanks, Sam.
It means a lot. Indeed. Cool things that we have been doing here at the Whatnauts. I just published my reaction to Mountain Dew Flamin' Hot, their brand new limited edition flavor. I have the can right over here still. Yeah, it's a trophy now. But if you guys want to go see me react to tasting this, it is up on our YouTube channel, so be on the lookout for that. PlayStation had a big showcase on crossplay, so we talked all about that, real in depth with that one. And then last but not least, in the near future, be on the lookout for our Ice Cream Social, which is our Patreon exclusive thing for this month. It was good. It was a lot of fun. I had a blast.
Monthly little treat for you.
With that one.
Pay $3 and you can watch us eat ice cream.
Absolutely. Patreon.com/the Whatnauts at the $3 tier and above is where you can get all of the exclusive content and stuff like that. But yeah, that is about it. So for now, let's get into spoilers. There we go. Okay, Melissa, I think we are back in business. It looks like Discord is cooperating a little bit more, which is a good thing here. So yeah, let's dive into Aliens. Did you have a place that you wanted to start in particular? What stood out?
I'm curious about your findings watching Alien and Aliens so close together. How did you find that evolution?
Okay. I enjoyed it a lot. It's I mean the second one really picks up right where it left off, kind of, right? At least at the start, that's what you think, right? Of like, oh, she went to sleep, she made it to Earth, she's being found, like the day is saved by Ripley. And then they get her into the like Wayland Yutani Corp medical bay. I don't know exactly where they are, but they bring her in and they're just like, all right, we need to have a talk. It's been 57 years. And at that, I like, this was the first indication that like, maybe I haven't seen this one. Like, I don't remember such a major time jump. That's almost like 60 years. That's kind of wild. I would think I would remember that. But I did not. And yeah, like that was kind of a shock to me of just like, oh, I had no idea that this is what they were doing. So does like, then in my mind, I was like, does that mean the aliens have spread on that planet or have gone to another planet, or like what's happening here? And yeah, we see right away that's like, oh, the planet you were on, we've terraformed it, people are living there, it's a great time, you want to go vacation there, I can book you a flight. And she's just like, no, that's bad. There were thousands of those things on there that hadn't even hatched yet. This is not good. What happened to them? And they're just like, why, we just didn't explore that part. And she's just like,
we didn't see those.
God, you idiots. Like, but yeah.
I like the conflict here. Like, clearly this is an evil company. We know from movies that's an evil company, but there is an understandable conflict because like Ripley's the only person who has seen these, and that was 57 years ago. It's like they're grilling her like, why did you do all this? Why did you blow up this giant ship you were on and all the cargo you were pulling? I don't even remember what the cargo is. Hopefully it wasn't like the medicine for sick children or something.
I think it was like rocks or something to get. Yeah, I don't know.
Rocks for sick children.
Minerals. They're minerals. Damn it.
She kind of has to fight to be listened to, but I think that there's like a 1%. You can kind of see what the company is thinking. Like, lady, we understand your concern, but like, nothing's happened in 57 years. You just woke up from a very, very long nap. Maybe you're confused. And I like that Paul Reiser's character, even though he does turn out to be the antagonist of the thing, he has a point where he's like, we can't just keep exploding places. Like, we put a lot of time and effort into like terraforming this planet. Like, we can't explode this. That can't be what our solution is.
Just need to blow it up. That's the big thing there. Like I don't know. It like that character specifically, he's at the start is not necessarily charming, but he's charming in this like boyish way where he's obviously not the like uptight company man who's been there and he's all wrinkled and gray haired from stress from the company and stuff, but he seems more naive if that makes sense. Like
and like
maybe he's been manipulated, but in his naivety, he is kind of charming, right?
Yeah, and I think he's also just charming in contrast to I've only seen adult Paul Reiser from Mad About You. I've never seen a young Paul Reiser, and so he's
Sure.
very charmed by him just as an actor.
Yeah. No longer mad about you. I'm less mad about you now. But yeah, I mean, and he like it's interesting to see him because by the end of this film, he is the character that you just love to hate. You see him and you're just like, God, I just want to punch you with your perfect fucking teeth. Like, yeah. And he's a character that very quickly, in my opinion, looks a completely different way than I would expect that character to look. Like knowing what he turns into, that I found was interesting.
Yeah, like his costume is interesting. Like he's just wearing like a plain shirt and he's wearing like a puffy vest. He looks like Marty McFly. Like he's not dressed like a company man. He's also not dressed like any sort of a tactical, operative. He's just like the representative of the company there to sort of monitor things. And he got to wear his weekend clothes.
Yeah. And at the end, like every time he's on screen, you're just like, I hate you. I hate you. You're just, you little stinking little worm. Ugh.
I was probably the reaction I was supposed to have, but I was just like, wow, look at young Paul Reiser. He's very cute.
Yeah, I mean that is the thing. Like he is that. He fits that look. Like I don't think you're wrong in feeling that way or thinking that, right? Like that is, I think, what that is at least what your initial reaction is supposed to be. And then it's just it's kind of amazing to see like by the end of this film, he's just such a little piece of shit that it's just like, man, I don't want anything to do with you. Like, get off of the screen, go away, like do something, die, like get killed or something, please. God.
And I'm always the person who wishes that character would be. I wish they did sit down and she's like, I understand that maybe we could explore an option that isn't exploding. Like, let's sit down at this table right here. I've got a legal pad. Is there an option that works better for both of us? That never happens. Nobody ever talks out a problem.
Can we explode half of it?
Right.
It's a compromise, right?
Yeah, no corporate guy ever comes around to the problem and nobody ever comes around to his perspective. The answer is always, well, he will die.
Yeah. Oh well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's interesting to see him, and then the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, because they have this. They're not necessarily apathetic, but it seems like they're apathetic to Ripley's plight and what she's saying, and on one hand, yeah, you can kind of see it's like, whoa, it's been almost 60 years. You've just had this whole thing thrust upon you. It's understandable that you might not know how to act, or you might be in shock still. On one hand, that makes sense. On the other hand, it really, really seems like they are just your typical corporation that's like, okay, what's our bottom line? So we lost a lot of money when you did that. Why did you do that? We need to explain that to our shareholders and stuff like that. So can you give us a detailed report?
Which is wild that it's been so long ago that, like, if they had any shareholders, they may be dead or maybe not. I don't know how long people live. Maybe in future space times where you go to space, you also live to be like 130. But she must have been gone for so long that the actions, like what happened on the Nostromo, must be a legend. Imagine having the opportunity to like sit down and have a formal professional conversation about what's the actual story behind this legend, like my grandpa told me.
Yeah. Which, I mean, well,
I think that angle's
is
interesting.
It really a legend? Because it, like, no one really knew what happened on that thing or why they did all this stuff. It was just like, well, I guess they all died and everyone thought they died, but then they found a survivor. So I don't know, but yeah, the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, I feel like I know in some of the video games that have come out around this, they really go into just like how shitty of a big corporation they are, and just how much they don't care, and they're just like, oh, you guys will be fine, you guys can go back out there and stuff like that. We'll overwork you. We won't pay you those stuff. All that stuff. But yeah, that was interesting to see what they were trying to do and how they were just insistent on like, no, we need one of these things. Like, we want to bring one of these back so we can study it for weapons development and all that stuff. And it was like, I feel like is maybe more of a theme that I think is maybe more modern. Like it was happening back then too, but it almost feels ahead of its time to be like, let's focus on like corporate greed and stuff like that, and how that can go wrong.
I've been thinking a lot about Jurassic Park, because that also has like, did you remember the lawyer like who just gets killed very easily? Like, we're not going to listen to anything the lawyer said. Lawyer's dead. He dies in a toilet. And like I don't know if it comes up so much in Jurassic Park in the original movies, but in Jurassic World, using those dinosaurs as war machines is a real big storyline. That's what the second movie is about. Fallen Kingdom is part of it is a girl wandering through a spooky mansion, but also part of it is Toby Jones auctioning off dinosaurs to the highest bidder for them to be like super fancy guard dogs. You can have a raptor guard your compound. Yeah.
There's always gonna end up being something like that. You know that once that corporation gets their hands on these Xenomorphs, that they'll study it for a while and stuff like that, then they'll get more of them, then they'll get a live one, then they'll get a grown one, and then they'll start to have more and more, and then someone is gonna get the idea. I bet someone out there would pay me a lot of money to steal this and deliver it to them. And then it's just like, this is going to go so wrong. Yeah, it's going to go so bad.
All it takes is one Dennis Nedry, one Dennis Nedry in your group, and then the whole thing can break wide open.
Yeah. So the director's cut. I don't know what they did not have in the original then, but you mentioned that it seemed like they went into a little bit more detail about people that Ripley has lost, and a little bit more on the people that are on the planet and stuff like that.
That's what I heard. Like in the director's cut, like she's got a daughter who has died, in the interim time while she's been asleep in space.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because in they ask her like, hey, do you have like someone we should notify? Did you have kids? All they're just trying to find out more information. And she mentioned she has a daughter. They bring in a picture of her, and they remind her like it's been 57 years. If she was like 11 at the time, she would have been like 60 something now. But she also passed away 2 years ago, so you can't really see her. So it's, to me, it's an interesting touch. Because this movie does also have a lot of like motherhood themes in there, right? Like Ripley kind of adopting this lone survivor Newt, and Newt eventually calling her mommy. And then there's this kind of understanding between Ripley and the like queen bee xenomorph. there's a whole scene with that. Like there are themes of motherhood in this film, which I don't know how I feel about them, if they are misplaced or not. Like, is that something that belongs in here? How did you feel about that?
I like the bond between her and Newt, and I feel like if you had that director's cut story about her losing a daughter, that can help it, that can enhance it certainly, but I don't feel like that's needed to like make that emotional connection hit home for you in the theatrical cut. Like, you get that they're both like these lone survivors, completely alone, not in their situation, but in the world. You know, Ripley seems like she has no family left. Seems like Newt doesn't either, and I don't remember how long they say that those colonists have been there on that planet, if like Newt was born on Earth, if she remembers Earth or whatever. But they bond with each other. I like to watch them bond.
Yeah. Like I wasn't necessarily put off by it or stuff like that, but it's I mean, I feel like it goes more along the lines of hey, I kind of wanted more of a horror film and stuff like that, but I didn't get exactly what I wanted, but it was still good, right? Like I enjoyed what we got, and so I don't necessarily feel like those themes are necessarily misplaced or that they don't belong, but it also seems like, well, I also didn't necessarily need them. So yeah, and she has an angle of protection rather than an angle of camaraderie. Like, she doesn't find much of an equal among the group, and all she her primary concern is protecting like the next generation of people who this may continue to happen to. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about the Marines here that they bring in, the colonial Marines. Like you had said at the start, they are, it's kind of like the Suicide Squad in the sense that, like, you know, most of these people aren't gonna make it. They aren't like fully fleshed out characters and stuff like that.
I feel like that's how most war movies operate in general, though. Like that's most of my dad's World War II movies he watches.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting squad. I liked, I don't remember her name, but the one girl that was like the big gunner that was more muscular,
Vasquez?
that they were like, that sounds right, because I think she was somewhat Hispanic or something. The one that was like doing the pull-ups, and they were like, hey, have you ever been mistaken as a man? She's like, no, have you? I liked her. Like, I felt like she was maybe the most fleshed out character in this, which is kind of strange because the movie also kind of falls in the trope of like, hey, there's the one like ruggedly handsome manly man who's the leader of the squad, who maybe also develops a thing for Ripley by the end of this, and she kind of likes him too, and I didn't necessarily need that. I felt that one was just like, okay, eye roll. But I liked Vasquez. Like, she was probably my favorite. Yeah.
I was familiar with her before. I was familiar with her before I started this movie, because there was a movie podcast called I Was There Too, where a comedian named Matt Gorley would interview actors who had tiny bit parts throughout movies. Like, he interviewed one of the bus passengers from Speed, or like one of the other students in Dead Poets Society, and he really wanted to talk to the actors who plays Lieutenant Vasquez, and that was a real fun interview. So I was familiar with her. I like the whoever that chief is, who's like practically eating a cigar. He was fun. I like
was
that
good.
there's a lot of d- old-fashioned, very gendered ribbing at each other. But I like that is kind of the result of it being a fairly mixed gender group. Like there's like
Yeah.
besides there's Ripley, Vasquez, that blonde lady who's the pilot who has "Fly the Friendly Skies" written on her helmet, and I think
Hmm.
like one or two or three other ladies. I liked seeing like so many ladies just like in the background of the crew, like being pulled out to be characters and also just filling out the world, like being window dressing in a way that like adds some level of detail to this world. And like they're all
Yeah.
making fun of each other, but it does seem like if somebody makes a joke at you, like the person who is the butt of the joke sort of throws it back at them. Like nobody seems like they feel like they are being really harmed in this environment.
Yeah, she's not gonna let herself be bullied or stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, like it looks real toxic to us on the outside, but like the people within it, like it didn't look like anybody felt like they were being left out or like very seriously picked on. Nobody's very clearly like, oh, that's the runt of the group. Like they kind of
Yeah,
we're on a closer
she's
playing field with each other than many other groups of soldiers that I've seen in other movies.
yeah, she's probably the one, like in that whole squad. She's probably the one that would fuck you up the most
Yeah, yeah,
if
we're all rightly
if you
terrified
got
of
into it.
Vasquez.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good for
Yeah.
Vasquez. I liked her a
What?
lot.
Let's talk about our robot friend Bishop.
Yeah, Mr. Robots. So I have to say I know I had seen the first one before. I forgot that that whole robot twist thing. So when they
Yeah.
when he like they like knock off his, so in the first one, I don't know if you
Hmm.
remember it, but they discover he's a robot.
Yeah.
Or they
Yeah.
they discover one of the characters is a robot and has been
It's Ian
manipulating
Holm.
the mission. Yeah. And one of the characters takes like a giant monkey wrench to his head, and it like knocks off his
Yes.
like from his neck like back, and it's just hanging there.
Yeah.
And it's gruesome as hell. And I forgot like all of that stuff was in there. That was the one thing that I forgot from the main film. And
It's a fun thing
yeah,
to forget,
it's
to get to
back
live again.
in this. Yeah, it's back in this
More
second one
milk
here.
blood.
And Melissa, would you mind repeating that? You are frozen again on my end.
I don't. These aren't even good jokes. I don't.
Oh yeah,
I'm saying
if it was a joke, then
no,
it'll
I'm just
be
saying
there
how
in the audio, but I missed it. So
I just think it's funny that the robots have got this like opaque white, I don't know what it is, like hydraulic fluid in their body. So when you hurt them, it
yeah.
seems like they're just bleeding milk.
Yeah, which it makes for this very visceral experience because people definitely react to blood when there is a lot of blood, but there's a certain like I know some people still can't take it, but there's a certain like level of like it's a movie, so I can probably take
Yeah.
more than I can see in actual real life. But something about it being white for me personally adds this like extra layer of like disgusting. Like it reminds me of milk, and it's just like, oh, they're covered in milk and it's like oozing out
There's
of them,
also
and
the
it's
question of
gross,
like,
and they're like spitting it up. It's just like, oh,
why does
I
a
don't like
robot need
this.
to be so wet? Normally in other movies when like a robot's a dry being, right? It's not like if you like there's a small amount of oil. I feel like these robots have got more fluid in their bodies than any other pop culture robots, and it's not clear what they need all that fluid for.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it's everywhere. It's messy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that was one of the more disgusting things in these films is the amount of fluid that is in these robots. Wet robots, gotta love them. Yeah, but I think the robot in this second one, again, I don't remember his name, but it
Bishop.
was Bishop. Thank you. It was a good redemption arc from the first one. I know it's not the same robot, but Ripley obviously has this like very physical reaction to what just happened to her of like, no, it was a robot who did this. It seemed like it was malfunctioning. I just want to make sure that you're not going to malfunction, because if you do, you're going to be a bitch to kill. Like, and like I already have to deal with these aliens and these dumbass Marines that won't listen, that they think they're hot shit, right? Like this is just turning out to be bad. And I think it has a nice redemption arc where he is the one that helps out, is kind of one of the survivors at the end, though, even though he gets ripped in half at the end, and he just has this like,
he
hey,
could be repaired.
I'm one of the good ones.
Yeah, and like he is redeeming himself to Ripley, even though he's not done anything wrong. He like recognizes that she does have this prejudice against robots, and he's patient with that, and he kind of takes it upon himself, whether he personally needed to or not, where he's like, well, I'll prove to her that a robot can be good. I'm gonna work extra hard for Ripley.
Yeah. So that's I liked him a lot. Bishop was good. I'm glad he was there at the end to help save Newt from getting sucked out the airlock, stuff like that. He's a good one. He's a good egg. No pun intended.
It's always good to see
there with the.
I love an android.
Xenomorphs.
This goes back to my dad making us watch so much Star Trek: The Next Generation when we were kids. Big fan of Data. He's got real Data vibes.
Sure.
With his like exact haircut and his lined face. Just take like a mildly pleasant looking like 40-something-year-old character actor, and that's your best android.
There you go. Yeah. So let's see, what else? I guess we need to talk about the alien itself, the Xenomorphs.
Yes. Morphs.
Let's talk
with a dollar
about
sign.
them. Xenomorphs. Let's see. So the first one, there's obviously only one of them. I guess what I found interesting about that first film and then into this second is there's each stage, so to speak, of this creature is so different. Like you have the spider face hugger thing that like sucks onto your face and wraps around your neck. And then you have the like baby xenomorph, which is all like pink. It's like a flesh color, and it's small, and it doesn't have like, it looks more like a lizard, maybe. But then like you don't. It must grow really fast, because the next thing we see is this like larger than life, like sleek, all black. I guess not necessarily sleek, but it's shiny, and it's kind of covered
it's
in
sleek
this
the way a cockroach
goop.
is sleek. Yeah,
where like it still has all these appendages and arms and legs and tails and who knows what. So it's not sleek in that sense, but it's like black and reflective and covered in this liquid, and it's gross and disgusting. And then it has this like second head mouth thing that pops out, which is both really gross and phallic at the same time, and it is also
so sexual,
very disgusing.
Especially
covered in all that goop and stuff. It's gross.
I feel the way about aliens the way I feel about certain large bugs. Like I compared it to a cockroach, and I feel like like the the gross out factor with a bug, and I'm less grossed out by bugs than I feel like many people are, but like I try and get them out of my apartment safely. I want them to be outdoors. That's where they live. I live inside. We should each get to live in our places. So I try and take it outside, but if I can't, I got to squash it. It's the fact that they look on the outside like they're these like hard, pointy, shiny little things, and you think they're going to crunch, and they do kind of crunch, but also it's all goo in the middle. Like that like textural juxtaposition is what's real rough about dealing with a bug. And that's definitely here with Xenomorphs. They look like they could cut you, but also like they're just a big goo sack underneath all the parts that will cut you.
Right? Yeah.
And
yeah,
they're so
exactly.
invasive. Like they're just, as opposed to like other threats in other movies where you're like, yes, I don't want to be harmed by that. Get out of here. Dementor, or whatever you have, any minute, black alien, I don't know. Like there's something about a xenomorph where it feels so like pure and animalistic and like maybe not sentient, but also like when it gets up in you, you're like offended. You're like, get out of my business, xenomorph. This is my boundary. This is my bubble. That's my purse. I don't know you.
Absolutely.
And like they just crawl inside you and they like burst out of your chest and you're like, no, xenomorph, that's my chest. Stay out. Like they want to use you for something. Whereas other monsters might just want to like gobble you up or something. Like being used as like, yes, I will lay my eggs in you is far, far worse than just being gobbled.
Agreed. Yeah. So one thing that I thought was interesting that their blood is like acidic and stuff and can like melt through all of like all sorts of metal, multiple layers. But it felt like they only brought that up when they needed to. And if it wasn't necessarily plot relevant, it didn't matter for like, oh, if some sprayed on like that, like they're right there just shooting these things and flame throwing these things. You think you would get hit by that more often, and characters did get hit, but like I felt like it should have happened more.
Yeah, I feel like if you've got as unique of a feature as acid blood, like really get the most money out of that. Acid blood could contribute to more value.
Yeah. It was one of those things that I was just like, I feel like that should be a bigger concern, especially if you're like running in the middle of the nest and shooting these things and they're on all sides of you. It just felt like that should have been more of a thing.
Yeah. There's the primary thing I remember from the first Alien movie is that when they discover it has acid blood, like they see like an acid drip or something in the ship, and then one of the crewmates says, that must be what it uses for blood. And my friend and I were like, uses? What, like you got to pick? What do you mean like that's what it uses for its blood? Right? Do we use
Do you want the bubblegum flavor, the citrus flavor, or the acid flavor? Ooh, acid sounds nice. I'll take that one.
I've just been stuck on that one verb choice for several years.
That's an interesting thing to note. Yeah. What it uses for blood. Melissa, what do you use for blood?
Oh, yeah, burrito energy, like I said earlier.
Burrito, good stuff. I was thinking pizza sauce for me.
Oh, pure marinara.
Yeah, there you go.
If somebody cuts you and you start bleeding, you just hear like Italian restaurant music coming from somewhere.
Pepperoni coming out.
What I want to say about this, once they land on the planet, I felt a little lost because I think all the sets look fine, but they all started to run together for me as just a bunch of like industrial like pipes and vents and grates, and I had difficulty telling where we were at any given time.
Yeah.
And I think that was a
Go ahead.
I think that's like the downfall of the movie for me is just that I wish that it had a stronger sense of
Okay.
setting. Because I felt like as they went from place to
Interesting.
place,
Yeah.
I didn't know like where are all of these places? Where are they in relation to each other? Are we all on the planet? What's on the planet and what's on like your ship? We go to the space colony, right? And we meet Newt's hiding out somewhere, and she's got like a little award, like second grade citizenship award. Which this has got to be a thriving little community if they can give out a citizenship award, not just for a child, but like a child per grade. There must be many people there if you could give an award to one child per grade for citizenship.
It sounded
like
it sounded like there was around like 150, 160 people in that colony, and there was a good like
many,
maybe 20 kids at the most, because they said most of them were couples, actually.
I thought I remember Paul Reiser saying it's probably like 50 or 60 families live up there. But who's to say what makes a family?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it might be, but yeah.
I wish the movie would have like shown us more of clearly defined like community spaces. Like, let's have a fight in what used to be Newt's school, or like where she used to live.
Oh, yeah.
Or like this is where the colonists tried to like grow produce or something.
Yeah. That would be neat. That would be interesting. I think I would like to see that too. I think that colony specifically, though, was fairly new, and it was not it like. I mean, you've seen like old westerns, right? Where there's a small town in the middle of nowhere, Dakota, and they have like that one street where that like. They have like one street and it's like two bars. Like it feels like
a bank,
that, but more science-based.
Yeah, I wanted to see more of that. Like I got a clear sense of cultural setting from this movie, but I wished I had a better sense of like geographical spaces of like what part of the planet, what part of the space are you in now? Because this looks very similar to the part you were just in that it's a lot of pipes. And I don't see how people lived here.
Yeah.
Like, it's a place where people went to try and live, and then they all died there. And I wished I could have seen, like, a living space.
Gotcha.
Like, none
that
of the
makes sense.
settings felt super specific to me. I talk often about my love for giant sci-fi hallways. Like how I love Star Wars is just full of huge corridors where you don't really know what they're for, but they imprint on you. Like those are really powerful, like enigmatic physical spaces to be in. And I just kind of wish this movie had something a little bit more like that.
I agree. Yeah, I can see how you can get lost in that, and I do agree that the setting of the place is not something that really made an impact on me. I would like it to be. I feel like we focus more on Ripley and the Xenomorphs of just like the like weird things that they do and stuff like that, and so I don't know, maybe this is something they explore more in the other movies, because we do get
perhaps
when we're in like the nest, like the space that is the net, that I think is maybe the most like distinct place, right? Because it's covered in it also, like I don't even know exactly how to describe it exactly. It's kind of like a spider web. There's fleshy bits and there's that like clear liquid goo all over the place. There's people like inside these things, but we get to see the Xenomorphs like fill those spaces and fill those cracks in weird ways, and that's fascinating that they can like blend in and like make a space for themselves. Like you I think it was last week or something you mentioned, no, I think this was another podcast, I don't remember, but there's a Jinji Ito short
Oh,
story
yes.
about this town that like finds a
Yeah.
hole in a mountain, and this one dude is like, that hole is for me, like that it's shaped like me. I am
Yes.
that hole, and he like fits
Yeah.
in that hole perfectly. And that's
Yes.
kind of what I felt like the Xenomorphs were doing, like camouflaging themselves in this thing.
Mm.
And I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, I like that. I like the way the xenomorph stuff looks, but if they are such a corruption of living human society, I would have liked there to be a stronger juxtaposition, like, oh, the xenomorphs have been laying their eggs in what used to be this community's gymnasium. Like, like I wish I had a sense of like specifically what parts of human life have they taken over? What did all of these places used to be before the aliens started erupting out of their eggs? Like, I don't know if this is a good movie, but as a kid, I really liked the like 1998 Godzilla movie where it's Godzilla in New York City. And the climax of that movie, this like big final set piece, is that Godzilla has laid all these eggs in Madison Square Garden. So like all these eggs are in like a basketball court and locker rooms. And as the characters are getting in there trying to like film. Yeah, and the characters are getting in there trying to film them, show, you know, the people on the outside, like, this place is full of eggs. Like, we have to get rid of it. We have to destroy these eggs or we're going to have more Godzillas on our hands. They're running past, like, payphones and vending machines and promotional posters for, like, Josta soda. Like, really recognizable, mundane human things. And that sort of makes that threat feel, more real. Like, more like it could happen to you. And I don't feel like I'm ever going to be in a place that's all pipes and grates and vents.
I mean, hopefully you're not in a place like that with a bunch of xenomorphs around you. So, but you never know.
Yeah, I don't see my life reflected in whatever the lives were that this community was trying to lead out there in space.
Yeah, absolutely.
Except for that, I like Newt's little award. I feel like, I mean, it's a pretty fancy award. It's got her photo on it. It's like a little lucite standee. I would have just gotten a certificate. So whatever the school is, space school she was going to, seems like it's very high end. I like that sample of like, that feels like real life. That feels like something I've experienced. I can grab onto that.
Yeah. Kind of the last thing I want to ask you. So besides the setting, is there certain things that you want the rest of the Alien movies to explore? I mean, I know they've already made.
I've never seen them.
So what
I don't know what they
hoping,
do and what they don't do.
Right, which is what I'm asking you now. Like, what are you hoping that what are you hoping that they do and explore?
When Paul Reiser talks about how Weyland-Yutani wants to study the xenomorphs and maybe take some aspects of their biological structure and use it for weapons, I started wondering what would they need weapons for? Like, is this, to protect one part of Earth from another part of Earth? Is this still like international conflict? Or do they have fear that like we need to be able to defend ourselves against the xenomorphs themselves or against other alien threats that might come to us? Like if they if they suspect, if there's a story that Ripley tells them that there's xenomorphs out there, do they live in fear of the xenomorphs attacking them? Like Mars attacks style? Do they live in fear of other potential alien intelligences coming to overthrow Earth? What is that fear level like?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I think for me, I want to the big mystery for me is still like, where did that ship come from that the aliens came on, like that had just crashed there with the distress signal going on?
Right.
I think it's Prometheus. That's the prequel, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I don't know if it's like a direct one where it's like, and then the ship crashes and that's it. And then in Alien, they pick up the distress signal. I'm not sure if it's like that much of a direct prequel. But yeah, like I want to know a little bit more about that. Like what happened there? Why is this ship just mysteriously there? Yeah, I think you also mentioned like, what are they really developing weapons for? Is there something else out there? Is this just to protect against corporate espionage from other human factions or stuff like that? Yeah, is there another competing space company besides Weyland Yutani that's out there that like might do something stupid? And who knows? I don't know. But yeah, I think I would also like to explore the relationship between the robots and these xenomorphs a little bit more. Like, can they smell them? Can they see them? What? We don't really get to see them interact all that much. And like, can the xenomorph still somehow impregnate a robot somehow? Because they are or
like at least put something like does a xenomorph egg need like the human body to like take nutrients from, or like if you did put it in like a synthetic body, does it just need that space, that little warm cavern to snuggle into?
Right, yeah, that's kind of what I'm wondering, if there's stuff like that, because like if that's the case where like the robots aren't really affected or can't be impregnated or stuff like that, why don't they send a team of all robots in there and do the work?
I would love to see an all robot mission. I was just trying to think about if there's a movie that's all robots except for the DreamWorks animated movie Robots, which is a comedy and isn't the same. Like, is there... Right, like we've seen movies where it's like there's an android. Is there any movie that's all android? Like 100%? Maybe like one human or like a dog?
Yeah. That'd be interesting to see them go up against the xenomorphs.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So good stuff. I think that's kind of about all the stuff that I have on Aliens. Do you have final thoughts?
I just want to say again, that final battle, visually difficult to watch. I feel like I missed so much of what was happening just because I was like, too bright. I can't look at this. I tried to watch it like through a blanket. I put a blanket over my head to try and like dull the brightness of the lights. But it had like an open weave, so I'm like, I can kind of see through these holes. It was still difficult. I was really surprised that there wasn't any sort of like a photosensitivity warning before I started watching this movie.
It was back in the 80s. They didn't know.
They add these. They retroactively add these to things. You know, Disney will warn you if a movie has one cigarette in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Good movie. I think the rest of the franchise does kind of go back to its horror roots, if I'm not mistaken, unless you go the AVP route, which is also then more action. Stuff like that. But your mileage may vary on those films there. So there you go. Good stuff. Melissa, I think it's time to check in on Bingo. Our review show Bingo. I am pulling up my bingo sheet right now, seeing what we got here. Let's see.
I don't think that the aliens being at least 57 years old gets to call them ancient evil.
Right, yeah. We don't have a magic book. We don't have an actor that appears as themselves. There's no detective who makes the case personal. We do have a character who gets stuck with a kid.
Yeah, you've got that.
I do have that one.
I was also watching this thinking about how you've got the square, robot blamed for murder, which we don't exactly have, but we do have in the first movie, yes. A robot murdered people. And then in the second movie, Ripley's like, this robot may murder more people. I know it's a different robot, but now I'm suspicious of all robots.
Yeah. But character who gets stuck with a kid is probably my square that I can do this time. Well, how do you feel about vehicle in peril? I know, because I guess the vehicle in this, that like massive tank that looks like the Elon Musk's cyber truck thing. I don't know if that wasn't totally in peril in and of itself.
Yeah, I don't know if I count that. Not
what we're doing there. So I guess not on that one. The first movie, absolutely. That ship was in peril. Yeah. There was an alien species inside that ship. Get out now. Get out fast.
If you wanted to take robot blamed for murder, I would give it to you, since that is kind of a narrative that connects the two movies, even if we only talked about aliens. She has this lingering suspicion of the robot that it may murder. Okay, you can hold on to it. Maybe it'll still happen for us.
I would say no on that one, because she's cautious. She is, is speciesist the right thing to say there? I don't know, but yeah, she is just like, I don't like these fucking robots. But that's it. She's not blaming Bishop for what happened, but she has this. I feel like, hey, she just had this traumatic experience that, like, it's understandable that she would have this, like, I don't know about this. So there you go. But that's all I got. Character who gets stuck with a kid. Thanks, Newt.
Yeah. I didn't have anything I could cross off. No ghosts in this.
No ghosts. Let me make sure I save that and then close it out. There you go. Okay. Shametember. Rolling along, Melissa. My turn.
Oh, are we going to do our recommendations?
Oh, yes. Thank you. I've been missing our recommendations lately. So, recommendations. If people liked this, what else might people like?
I already talked about how this reminded me of the Jurassic Park franchise in certain ways. Reminded me of Godzilla, which, as I said, I don't know if that movie's good. It's too long. There's some there's a scene where they have submarines that are like hunting Godzilla underwater that goes on forever. I always get bored. But there's other parts of that movie that I find fascinating. I think if you like a disaster movie as opposed to like an alien threat movie, because Godzilla isn't. He's just a lizard who got radioactive and real big. Maybe consider Godzilla. If you want a good 80s action movie, last weekend I watched Escape from New York for the first time. That was fun.
Okay, yeah.
And there you go. Did you know that's filmed in St. Louis, which is why I watched it?
I did not know.
Not filmed in New York. New York, they use models. The actual city they use is me. They use us. And I knew they filmed at least part of it here, but I was listening to an episode of Blank Check about it, and they said, like, no, pretty much
a lot.
Most of the exteriors was St. Louis. And whoever built the guy who made vehicles for that movie, like, built the frame for my dad's dune buggy. So that's a personal connection I have to Escape from New York. Even if Dad got rid of that dune buggy before I was born, like, I just know in the back of my head, like, I imagine my dad had a dune buggy once, which is a wild thing to think for you to imagine your dad having had a dune buggy and you've never seen it.
Yeah.
Also, this is the one time I'm going to be able to fit this in. Okay. So earlier I mentioned there's a comedy podcaster named Matt Gorley, and he has an improv group called Super Ego that would do these, little improv scenes. And one of his characters is that he would play H.R. Giger, who's the designer of the original Aliens. But he plays him as like, hi, it's me. HR Giger, guess what it stands for? Hey, really Giger. It's so funny. Like, he plays him as this like really absurd character, and there's a super ego scene called HR Giger at the drive-thru, where it's him and his like normal wife and son going through a drive-thru, and he's talking to the guy the other side of the intercom, like, do you have a sauce that used to be a crude oil slick? And he's like, we have ketchup. Please go to YouTube. Just look up Super Ego HR Giger at the drive-thru. It's like the funniest 5 minutes I've ever lived. It's hysterical. Please do this for me.
Okay. Good stuff there. I would recommend, I think an obvious one is Predator. That whole franchise is kind of hand in hand with this one. They even cross over at times. But yeah, I know that franchise has gone through its ups and downs, much like this one has, as well as the direction that the franchise has taken. Of like, it started with just one of them, it was out in the jungle, and now there's more of them, and they're in a city, and now they're now we get to see a little bit more about what they are like on their actual planet and stuff like that. Here's what the females look like, and here all that stuff. So they go through all sorts of stuff with that one. But 80s action, horror, sci-fi stuff all mixed in there. I think that would be a good recommendation. If it bleeds, we can kill it. What else would I recommend? Oh, there is a comic that I started recently called Something is Killing the Children. That I'm really, really enjoying. I like it a lot. This is, I think, something you might see again real soon on the show, hopefully. But it's a book, it's a comic about these kind of invisible monsters that are attacking this town. And there's a kid that sees it. Like, he starts to see these monsters, and a bunch of his friends get killed by this thing. And then the next, real soon after that, this girl shows up, and she's this like real badass who is hunting these monsters. And it turns out that she is a member of this secret society that for generations have been hunting these monsters. But she's maybe a little bit more of a rebel amongst this society, and does things a little bit differently, and stuff like that. So if you like good horror stories, that mixes in a little bit of fantasy and stuff like that, but just like big, like scary looking monsters and stuff like that, this is absolutely one to check out. I have been absolutely fascinated with this book. It's really good. So, and it's by James Tinian the fourth, and then I don't remember who does the artwork on that, so apologies, but it's published by Boom Studios.
Okay.
Go check that one out. Those would be my recommendations. There you go. So now we can finally get into what we're pitching for this next week. And like I said, Shametember continues on. Next week will be the second installment of Shametember for this year. But my 3 pitches did not have a theme like yours did, but I have a little bit of everything. Oh, whoops, I think there we go. Okay. Mine, the first one, I think needs no introductions, similar to yours did. This is one that is both really big in pop culture, but also one that I feel like I should have seen by now, because it is, from what I understand, is a crime movie. This one is Pulp Fiction. I've never seen Pulp Fiction.
I saw it once in high school. I don't remember it super well.
I understand it has like a weird narrative structure, like they tell the story and like backwards and all these different parts and stuff like that. I have no idea. I've never seen it. I've managed to like absorb the look of the movie. Like I know the characters, but I don't know anything about the plot. I've managed to stay spoiler.
You just know when somebody's dressed as Pulp Fiction for Halloween.
Yes, yeah. Like, oh, Pulp Fiction. They'll be like, yeah, good for you. You know it. I'll be like, I sure don't. But sure, okay, thanks, dude. But yeah, so that is pitch number 1, Pulp Fiction. Number 2, one that might be a little more personal to me. This is a time travel movie called Looper. I'm sure you guys have heard of this one. I've never seen Looper. This is written and directed by Rian Johnson. Yeah, I've never seen this one. Starring Bruce Willis, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Emily Blunt. Revolves around present-day contract killers called loopers, hired by criminal syndicates from the future to terminate victims whom they send back through time. I've heard great things about this. I don't really know much about it except that it's kind of a cult hit. Like the people that have seen this have been like, this is actually really good. Like I wasn't expecting it to be, but it was a blast. So Looper, a time travel film that I have not seen yet. And last but not least, Melissa, we're going back to a classic. I want to see the original Godzilla. The 1954 Godzilla movie that started it all. I've heard very, very good things that this is that this kind of original take is much more focused on like the people and how they are affected and the terrible things that humans have done to the earth and to to one another and stuff like that. I think also being a big comic book fan, I've also like heard and seen how like in post-war United States, stuff like superheroes started to get a lot more popular. That's where you start to see like they fell into a vat of acid, or he got nuclear powers and stuff like that. And it was the United States being empowered by nuclear stuff, right? Whereas in Japan, you see stuff like Godzilla, you see stuff like all these different kaiju that is more of this scary situation that is inflicted upon them because of the terrible things that they feel like they did, or that people have done to the earth, right? But then I know also down the road a bunch of these kaiju then kind of get flipped on its head to be like, oh no, Godzilla is our friend, like he's protecting us and stuff like that. So I would just like to go back to the original one and watch that and see what it's all about. So pitch number 1, Pulp Fiction. Pitch number 2, Looper. And pitch number 3, it's Gojira.
I'm truly shocked you have not seen Looper, so we're gonna watch that one. I feel like that's the most important one for you, Kyle, specifically as a person.
Okay.
Yeah, the fact that you've seen Brick but not Looper, I think, is odd.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Let's do it. Let's watch Looper this next week then. I'm all about it. That'll be a good one. I've heard nothing but good things. Good things about this. Besides that, though, Melissa, do you want to let the people know what we will be doing the week after that for our end of the month special?
Yeah, we are starting another monthly series where we watch one TV show all the way through to its conclusion. You know, we're going to watch season 1 at the end of the month, and then the month after that, season 2, then season 3. That's a 3-season show,
That's
right?
usually what
September,
happens after
October,
1 and 2.
November.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm just making sure this is a 3-season show and not a 4-season show. I think it's 3.
It's a 3
But,
one. Yeah. It's 3.
We're watching the HBO series The Leftovers. And we landed on this one because it's a convenient length. 3 months sounded good. Then we've got December off. And then it's co-created by Damon Lindelof, who worked on Lost, our beloved Lost. And I've heard very good things about this show. I've been curious as to what it is.
Yeah, I don't remember if it's exactly like plane related. Like Lost,
No.
there was a big plane
So far, there's not a plane
crash. Yeah, it seems more like The Rapture or some kind of just something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of a mystery.
I started watching the show. I'm like 3 episodes in, and I think it's 2% of the entire world population has vanished. And we're in this little town where, and it's like 3 years or so after that event. And it's just everybody still reeling from this unexplained, phenomena
coping,
that just took people away with no rhyme or reason. And it's about these sort of cults and religious movements that have popped up and all this, sort of crumbling of society, even like these tiny fractures that have all come up since this happened. It explores that.
Cool. Good stuff. I'm excited to dive into season 1 of Looper at the end of this month. But like we said, don't forget next week, Looper is what we are
season 1 of Leftovers.
There.
And then Spook Month.
Yeah, and then Spooky Month in October. We're gonna do a bunch of horror stuff, like we do. So we got exciting things coming up down the road. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it all. Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities, where me and my brother Jams talk about weird old kids shows you feel like only you remember. We haven't done it yet, but we are eventually getting to Godzilla, the animated series.
Okay, good stuff. There you go. Sounds exciting. You guys can find me at Yo Kyle Springer. And if you guys want to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. So go like, share, subscribe. You guys know the deal with all of that. And we will see you next week for Looper. Bye.
Bye.